Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking aim at a company that is quite literally foundational to modern homes and industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yet its 150-year history is filled with these corporate pivots that are so radical they almost defy belief.
Yeah.
We are diving into A.O. Smith Corporation.
Yeah, and this is a deep dive into an organization that has just mastered industrial reinvention.
Right.
For context, we are talking about an S&P 500 company, which, as of 2024 is reporting nearly $4 billion in revenue, $3.82 billion to be precise.
Wow.
They are the biggest name in North American water heating, but their journey to that point, it involved building everything from baby carriages to massive industrial weaponry.
That is the core of our mission today, isn't it? Reconciling those two identities.
Exactly.
We're tracking a century and a half of this relentless evolution. Our sources take us from C.J. Smith and Sons, a manufacturer known for bicycle parts,
Right.
through this breathtaking, almost necessary period of heavy war production, and then finally, establishing itself as a global specialist in water technology.
Heating, boiler systems, purification, the whole lot.
The sheer dissonance between where they started and their ubiquitous presence in your home today is the central fascinating challenge here.
What's truly astonishing, I think, is how efficiently they utilized core engineering skills, this mastery of steel, to facilitate entirely different industrial demands.
Yeah.
It's not just a story of gradual change, it's a story of radical strategic realignments driven by, available technology and just massive market shifts.
Okay, let's unpack this with the initial hook fact.
Yeah.
Because this is the detail that consistently blows people's minds.
It really does.
When you see the A.O. Smith logo today, you think reliable, efficient hot water.
Sure.
But by the time World War I concluded, this organization, using its high-speed steel forming expertise, was recognized as the largest bomb maker in the entire United States.
The largest. And if that doesn't put the sheer scale of their industrial capacity into perspective, just consider this. During World War II, they didn't just resume bomb production.
No.
They were ranked 74th among all U.S. corporations for the value of their military contracts. And critically, their engineering capacity was so high level
So advanced.
that they were chosen to produce highly specialized components for the most complex scientific undertaking of the era, the atomic bomb project.
So why should you, the listener, care about the industrial history of your water heater?
Well, because their expertise in forming, treating, and protecting steel developed for these incredibly high-stress critical applications like rapid-fire weapon casings and ultra-high-pressure oil vessels. That is the exact foundational technology that ensures the glass lining inside your residential water heater doesn't corrode and fail prematurely.
So we're talking about core innovations, industrial strength just applied directly to home comfort.
Exactly. That's what fundamentally defines reliability in your plumbing today.
Let's wind the clock way back then. Let's settle in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1874. The company was started by Charles Jeremiah Smith and initially named C.J. Smith and Sons.
Right.
It sounds like a humble, very 19th century kind of operation. What were they focused on, though, beyond just, generic carriage making?
Well, their original focus was actually quite specific and, for the era, technically challenging. They were manufacturing baby carriages and bicycle parts.
Okay.
And this wasn't just a side gig. By 1895, about 2 decades in, they had established themselves as the largest bicycle parts manufacturer in the United States.
The largest. So what was that initial technical skill that set them apart?
It was the ability to take flat sheet metal and form it into robust yet lightweight steel tubing. If you think about bicycle frames, they need to be strong enough to withstand road stress, but light enough to actually be functional.
Of course.
Achieving that kind of accuracy and consistency in forming steel tubing from sheet metal and doing it on a mass scale was not trivial at all. It established their expertise in precision steel manipulation, and that really laid the groundwork for everything that came next.
And what came next was the automobile.
The automobile.
It was the founder's son, Arthur Oliver Smith, the A.O., who gave the company its enduring name, who recognized that their precision steel skills were just perfectly suited to revolutionize the new auto industry.
Arthur Oliver Smith was the visionary, absolutely. He orchestrated that pivotal leap. In 1899, he developed the world's first pressed steel vehicle frame.
And that wasn't just like a small improvement, was it?
No, this was a fundamental shift. It moved away from the traditional, complex, heavy, and often unreliable wood or forged steel frame assemblies.
So the significance of that move is hard to overstate. What engineering advantage did a pressed steel frame really offer over what they were using at the time?
Well, before A.O. Smith, frames were often pieced together. They involved multiple rivets, castings, sometimes even wood components.
Right, which means inconsistent quality.
Inconsistent quality, heavy weight, and susceptibility to failure under stress. Pressed steel allowed for large, singular components to be stamped out with incredible consistency and structural integrity.
Which would enable rapid, reliable assembly for automakers.
Exactly. It was cheaper, it was lighter, and it was stronger.
And that innovation immediately catapulted them from being, a leading bicycle parts maker to a foundational industrial supplier, right?
Absolutely. They quickly cornered the market. They were supplying the earliest major automotive players, the Peerless Automobile Company, Cadillac, and most importantly, Ford Motor Company.
Wow.
This innovation didn't just give them a new product line, it established their capability for large-scale, high-volume, precision steel processing. This production capability became the industrial engine of A.O. Smith for the next 90 years.
But A.O. Smith was a company of restless engineers, it seems.
Very restless.
Because while the car frame business was booming, the sources show they were constantly tinkering with these sideline projects, looking for the next big application of steel and combustion.
Their willingness to innovate, even on items they would quickly discard, is really a marker of their R&D culture.
Right.
Take the Smith motor wheel, which they introduced in 1914. This was a really early attempt at making personal, motorized transportation accessible.
Describe that for our listeners. It sounds like something out of a steampunk novel.
It essentially was. It was a complete gasoline-powered wheel unit engine, gas tank, drive mechanism, all in one.
And the idea was?
It was designed to attach directly to the side of a conventional bicycle, converting it into this crude motorized vehicle. It just shows their early interest in propulsion and internal combustion, an area pretty far removed from stamping steel frames.
And they even briefly manufactured a complete automobile, right? The Smith Flyer.
The Smith Flyer, yeah, which was fascinating. It was one of the cheapest and simplest cars on the market. Basically a light wooden box on wheels, powered by that same motor wheel concept attached to the back.
It was like a very early go-kart.
Pretty much. And it was quickly sold off to Briggs & Stratton of Milwaukee. These short-lived diversions are key because they demonstrate a willingness to enter and exit markets quickly, testing their core tech skills in new ways.
This expansion naturally demanded a more formal corporate structure to handle the scale, I'd imagine.
It did. In 1904, they formally incorporated in Milwaukee as the A.O. Smith Company, acknowledging Arthur Oliver's contribution. But the really strategic move came later, in 1916.
What was that?
They reincorporated in New York. And that was a move that placed them closer to major financial markets, strategically positioning the company for the massive capital demands and industrial scaling that would come with America's entry into World War I.
So A.O. Smith enters 1917 as this industrial powerhouse, a master of high-volume, precision steel forming.
Right.
And as the world shifts to war, their expertise is suddenly rerouted from peaceful transportation to defense manufacturing. It's one of the most drastic corporate image shifts imaginable.
The transition was almost instantaneous. The moment the U.S. entered World War I, A.O. Smith began manufacturing bomb casings.
Just like that.
Their high-speed presses and their ability to handle large quantities of steel made them ideal for high-volume munitions production. The War Ministry didn't want bespoke. They wanted rapid, reliable scale.
And the numbers they achieved were just staggering. By the time the Great War was over, they had ascended to the rank of the largest bomb maker in the U.S.
Yes.
How did they achieve that scale compared to competitors? Was it purely automation?
It was automation coupled with specialization. They weren't just forging rough shapes, they were precision forming the complex casings, the aerodynamic shells and fins.
Stuff that required their signature expertise.
Exactly. Their mastery of efficient mass production allowed them to outpace manufacturers who were relying on older, slower forging methods.
And as intense as World War I was, World War II forced them into an even more massive mobilization. We mentioned their ranking as 74th among all U.S. corporations in military production.
It's hard to wrap your mind around that. It fundamentally redefined their purpose for almost 5 years.
What were the numbers like?
By 1945, the tallies are phenomenal. 4.5 million bombs built. And beyond munitions, they leveraged their expertise in structural components. We're talking 16,750 sets of aircraft landing gear, 46,700 propeller blades, and critical parts like the nose frames for the B-25 bomber.
They weren't just producing standard materials either. They were involved in complex systems. torpedoes, air flasks, and, as we highlighted, components for the atomic bomb project. What specific engineering challenge did their involvement in the Manhattan Project solve?
The sources indicate their role was primarily in manufacturing these ultra-high-pressure vessels and specialized piping systems
Which were required for?
for handling and separating the corrosive materials used in the enrichment process. This demanded absolute precision, flawless welding, and material integrity far beyond normal industrial standards. This requirement for perfection under extreme stress further honed their materials science prowess, which is a key through line for the company.
This is where it gets really interesting. That wartime pressure didn't just require them to build more. It forced these fundamental industrial breakthroughs that still underpin modern manufacturing today.
Yes, exactly.
So what were the key innovations born out of this period?
Well, the pressure for reliability and speed drove revolutionary leaps in how you join materials together. In the 1920s, their engineers developed the coated welding rod.
Okay, what did that do?
Before this, welding was often messy and inconsistent. The coated rod, it's essentially a protective flux around the metal core, shielded the weld pool from contaminants in the air.
Creating a much stronger, more reliable joint.
A much stronger joint. And A.O. Smith used this key advancement for 40 years, until 1965, giving them this sustained competitive advantage in high-pressure construction.
And then there's the automation achievement. The idea of mass production today is common, but A.O. Smith basically wrote the book on post-assembly line automation.
They didn't just automate a factory, they created the world's first fully automated automobile frame factory. This was an industrial miracle. It used a complex choreography of presses, robots, and conveyor systems, producing a finished automobile frame every 8 seconds.
Every 8 seconds. Think about that pace. A high-stress, custom-engineered component rolling off the line faster than you can pour a cup of coffee.
And that speed and efficiency were maintained until 1958.
What was the impact of that level of automation on the automotive industry?
It drastically lowered the cost of producing reliable chassis, which in turn enabled the massive post-war expansion of the American auto industry.
Right.
It proved that complex, non-standard manufacturing could be handled by machines at a speed previously thought impossible.
And they also pioneered something with oil refining.
Yes, the first arc-welded, high-pressure vessel used for oil refining. It replaced the older, heavier riveted designs. They produced these vessels, which were critical for the growing energy sector until 1963.
So we have this industrial titan master of steel, welding, automation, defense contracting. How does that incredibly high-tech, aggressive industrial entity pivot toward the everyday task of heating water? Where does plumbing even fit into this picture?
This is the definitive strategic pivot of the company. It's a move from sheer strength and volume to durability and corrosion resistance. And the key was a breakthrough in material science, the process of fusing glass to steel.
Fusing glass to steel.
They had mastered precision steel. Now they needed to master protecting it.
That sounds like an incredibly complex high-temperature process. Why did they even attempt it, and where did they first apply it?
Well, they needed to solve the problem of corrosion in steel storage vessels, which could ruin contents or compromise structural integrity.
Right.
And glass, when it's formulated and fused correctly, is chemically inert and completely corrosion-proof. So they first applied this science in 1933 to create large, single-piece, glass-lined brewery tanks.
Brewery tanks, okay.
This required incredibly high temperatures and precise glass formulation to ensure the glass and steel expanded and contracted at the same rate without shattering the lining.
And the market immediately validated this technology.
Immensely so. Over the next 32 years, they produced over 11,000 of these massive brewery tanks. This proved that they could apply this highly technical coating process on an enormous industrial scale.
So from beer tanks, it's a strategic move to residential water heating. But wait, the temperature and pressure requirements for a massive brewery tank are radically different from a small, high-pressure residential unit. How difficult was that scaling process?
It was still highly complex, but the foundational science was sound. The water in a residential tank, especially when heated, is highly corrosive.
Of course.
So the glass lining solved the premature failure problem that was so common in unlined tanks. In 1936, just 3 years after the brewery tank success, they patented the concept of the glass-lined water heater.
And the mass production followed quickly.
It did. By 1939, they were mass-producing residential water heaters. However, That entire production capacity was immediately shifted to military use during World War II.
Which again just reinforces how easily they could reallocate their entire industrial machine based on national need.
Exactly.
So once the war ended, A.O. Smith focused that newly freed, massive production capability squarely on the residential market, aiming for immediate market share.
That's when the infrastructure really went up. In 1946, they opened a massive 400,000 square foot residential water heater plant in Kankakee, Illinois.
And this wasn't just about their own branding, was it?
No, they were already positioning themselves as the industry's manufacturing backbone. They were making water heaters that carried the Kenmore name for major retailers. This move signaled they were ready for mass market domination.
And their growth wasn't limited to residential plumbing. They immediately targeted the commercial market.
A critical move. In 1948, they acquired the Burkett Company, which immediately gave them a strong foothold in commercial water heating and the specialized knowledge needed for large facilities, schools, hospitals, apartments.
And to really solidify that glass fused to steel was their new defining core technology, they applied it to agriculture, of all things, so far afield from bombs and cars.
The Harvestor silos, introduced in 1949, are the perfect physical manifestation of their new strategic focus.
What are they?
These were massive glass-fused-to-steel silos targeted at dairy and livestock operations for storing feed, specifically addressing the corrosive environment of fermented silage.
So this one technology, perfected under the demands of high-pressure oil refining and wartime manufacturing, became the reliable foundation for beer tanks, water tanks, and even farm storage. It's an incredible trajectory.
As we transition into the 1950s and 60s, A.O. Smith is now a leader in automotive frames and a rapidly growing force in water heating. But we have to discuss their powerful yet often forgotten division that enabled the entire HVAC and refrigeration boom of the mid-century, the electric motor business.
And the motor division wasn't exactly a startup. It was built through strategic acquisition.
Right,
Yeah.
precisely. They had acquired Sawyer Electric back in 1940 and then consolidated operations by acquiring Whirlaway Motors in the 1950s.
And what was the critical technical achievement that made them so indispensable to the air conditioning market?
The invention of the hermetic
A
motor.
hermetic motor. It became the standard for modern HVAC. What was the core engineering challenge A.O. Smith solved with it?
The challenge was leakage and maintenance. Older compressors required external shafts and seals, which would inevitably fail, leading to refrigerant leaks and expensive repairs. The hermetic motor solved this by being sealed inside the compressor shell, submerged in the refrigerant and oil. This eliminated the external seals entirely, making air conditioning and refrigeration units vastly more reliable and cheaper to operate.
So without the A.O. Smith hermetic motor, mass market, dependable HVAC systems would have been significantly delayed.
Oh, absolutely. They had secured their position as essential suppliers to the residential and commercial HVAC world.
This sounds like a high-volume, potentially high-margin business, because every single air conditioner and refrigerator needed one.
It was a huge driver of corporate growth, operating in parallel with the water heater business. And they continued to refine motor technology, even targeting specialized, difficult environments like swimming pools.
Right. Swimming pools require specialized motors because of the moisture and chemicals. What innovation did they introduce there?
In 1965, the motor division developed the enclosed canopy two-compartment motor. This was a dedicated design solution for pool pump reliability.
How did it work?
It physically separated the sensitive switching mechanisms from the motor windings in their own enclosed compartment. This isolation protected those critical components from the corrosive moisture, dirt, and chemicals of the pool environment, and it drastically extended the motor's lifespan.
Giving them a substantial competitive edge in that market.
A huge edge. And this motor expertise wasn't limited to the domestic market either. It provided their first major global footprint.
Really?
By 1976, they understood the international demand for reliable hermetic motors. They opened a plant in Bray, Ireland, specifically designed to supply the European and international refrigeration and air conditioning markets. So while water heaters were still primarily focused on North America, the electric motor division was already a powerful, globalized entity.
Shifting back to the core business, water heating, what were the key milestones during the 1960s and 70s?
This era was about product refinement and demonstrating market saturation. Following the Burkett acquisition, they launched the first glass-lined commercial water heater, the A.O. Smith Burkett B65.
And on the production side?
The scale was truly impressive. By 1969, they celebrated the production of their 10 millionth residential water heater. That is a massive volume of reliable units being installed across the country.
And as the energy crises of the 1970s hit, they demonstrated an important responsiveness to efficiency. That's a theme that remains absolutely central to their products today.
Absolutely. In 1974, they introduced the conservationist line of residential water heaters. This wasn't just a marketing name. It represented new designs focused on improved insulation and burner efficiency to reduce standby heat loss. It positioned them as innovators in energy management.
And it's important to note that they were no longer just a steel company. They began diversifying their material science beyond that classic glass fused to steel combo.
They moved into polymer and composite technologies. They established a glass fiber division aimed at replacing steel in applications where corrosion was extreme or weight was critical, like oil field pipe and service station pipe.
Right, handling highly corrosive or flammable liquids.
Exactly. This division eventually became Smith Fiberglass Products in 1986. They recognized that while steel was their heritage, the future required mastering advanced corrosion-resistant materials.
We should also mention the continued stability and leadership during this period.
Yes. Lloyd B. Smith, a fourth-generation family member, was elected chairman and CEO in 1967.
And he ensured continuity of purpose and long-term planning.
Which likely facilitated these major, decades-long industrial shifts. That stability, coupled with their initial European expansion in 1972, really set the stage for the dramatic strategic realignments of the 1990s.
As we enter the 1980s, A.O. Smith is this massive, highly diversified industrial conglomerate. You've got the largest producer of car frames, a global leader in electric motors, and a domestic titan in water heating.
A true giant.
But this diversification, while powerful, led to a crossroads at a crucial strategic decision that would redefine their identity forever.
The scale of their automotive business right up to the end is almost incomprehensible today. By the early 1980s, their automotive products unit in Milwaukee had manufactured over 100 million passenger car frames and 50 million truck frames.
100 million.
To shed that part of the business was, it was akin to tearing out the company's heart.
But they did it. In 1997, after 90 years in the automotive business, A.O. Smith sold the automotive products company to Tower International. This was more than just a divestiture. It was a clear signal to the market.
If you look at the financial logic, this pivot suggests that A.O. Smith recognized that by the late 20th century, the automotive frame business had become a high-volume, low-margin, capital-intensive commodity business.
The margins were shrinking.
And the capital expenditure required to keep up with automotive demands was just massive.
So instead of being a major but struggling supplier in a competitive sector, they chose to focus on the one business that offered stable, growing, and defensible market leadership: water technology.
Exactly. The reliable, glass-lined water heater provided better margins and intellectual property protection. Maximizing shareholder value in the modern industrial context meant focusing expertise.
They were preparing to double down.
They were preparing to double down on water heating and the specialized manufacturing skills they had perfected. Those skills were far more valuable in the highly regulated world of heating and plumbing than in the cutthroat global auto supply chain.
And while shedding that domestic auto legacy, they were simultaneously starting their global manufacturing push, particularly toward key growth markets in Asia.
The expansion started regionally with electric motor assembly operations in Mexico, in Ciudad Juarez and Ciudad Acuña, but the real strategic push, where the future lay, was Asia.
What was the first move?
In 1995, they entered joint ventures for fiberglass pipes in China, and, critically, a venture with Yuhan Water Heater to introduce residential water heaters to the growing Chinese middle class.
And their dedication to China wasn't a tentative exploration. It became a core investment.
Oh, by the end of the 1990s, the water products company bought out its joint venture partner and established a dedicated, wholly owned manufacturing plant in Nanjing, China. They recognized early that the rising economic power and urbanization of China represented the single largest untapped market for reliable home comfort products.
But before becoming the pure-play water company we see today, they spent a good decade aggressively expanding their motor division, almost as if preparing it for a grand exit.
That's a sharp observation. They consolidated their position in the motor market with a series of massive acquisitions in the late 90s and 2000s. They bought UPPCO, Inc., which made them the world's leading manufacturer of C-frame subfractional horsepower motors.
Wow.
Then they acquired General Electric's domestic compressor motor business and the electric motor division of Magnatech, instantly becoming a dominant force in HVAC supply.
So they bulked up the motor division, made it as valuable and market dominant as possible.
And then they executed the final strategic move. In 2011, A.O. Smith sold its entire electric motor business to Regal Beloit.
The defining final step.
This was it. They shed their motor and automotive past, dedicating 100% of their focus, capital, and R&D resources to water heating, treatment, and purification. They transitioned from a diversified conglomerate to a highly focused, specialized water technology company.
And with the auto frames and motors gone, their acquisition strategy broadened the scope of water technology well beyond just the simple glass-lined tank.
Yes, they moved into high-efficiency heating and purification. The first step was consolidating the core heating market. They acquired State Industries, Inc., and its subsidiary APC, Inc., which significantly increased their domestic market share and distribution network.
And then Lochinvar.
Then they targeted the high-efficiency commercial space by acquiring Lochinvar Corporation, which specializes in high-efficiency condensing boilers for hot water and hydronic heating. That's the modern gold standard for commercial water heating.
But the most profound strategic change in this period was the explicit move into water purification. They realized that clean water might be a larger, more pressing global commodity need than just hot water, especially in Asia.
This strategic choice defines their current trajectory. In 2009, they formally entered the purification sector with A.O. Smith Shanghai Water Treatment Products. This dedicated focus on purification signaled a massive strategic shift toward addressing water quality, not just temperature.
Because in some regions, purification is a necessity, not a luxury.
Exactly.
The global push continued aggressively, focusing capital on India and acquiring key filtration technology in North America.
Right. They bolstered their tankless offerings by acquiring Takagi's North American operations in 2010. Crucially, they simultaneously opened a new manufacturing plant in Bengaluru, India.
And quickly expanded it.
Very quickly. They expanded that facility to 297,000 square feet, explicitly ensuring it had capacity for water purification product manufacturing, mirroring their dual strategy in China.
And domestically, they added sophisticated filtration expertise.
In 2016, they acquired Aquasana, a major Austin-based water filtration company, for $87 million.
Aquasana specializes in whole house filtration, right?
Whole house systems and reverse osmosis drinking water filters. This acquisition gave A.O. Smith immediate access to cutting-edge filtration tech and a direct-to-consumer brand, which let them address the growing North American concern over water quality.
And that commitment to the Asian market in purification continues to this day, culminating in a major acquisition in late 2024.
That's right. In November 2024, A.O. Smith finalized the acquisition of Purite, the water purification business of Hindustan Unilever, for about $72 million USD.
And Purite is a huge player in India.
A massive player, specializing in affordable, high-volume purification systems. This move just cements A.O. Smith's transformation from a bomb and car frame manufacturer into a true global water stewardship enterprise, heavily invested in the vast purification markets of Asia.
So after this incredible 150-year journey, shedding its foundational businesses to focus entirely on water, what does the modern specialized A.O. Smith look like today?
Well, they are a thoroughly globalized, integrated technology company. Their scale is enormous. They operate 27 locations worldwide, with major manufacturing facilities strategically placed not just in North America, but in the key growth engines of the global economy: Bengaluru, Nanjing, and in Veldhoven in the Netherlands.
And domestically, the scale of their original core business water heating is still unmatched.
Absolutely. The legacy of industrial efficiency perfected during the early 20th century remains. The Ashland City, Tennessee location is home to the world's single largest water heater factory.
The largest in the world.
That facility operates with the same level of automated precision first achieved back in the 1920s with the car frame factory. It confirms that even while shifting focus to purification, the core heating business remains dominant.
Let's detail the product portfolio. It's far more comprehensive than just the basic water tank in your garage.
On the residential side, their heating portfolio is exhaustive. It covers every major energy source and efficiency standard: traditional gas and propane, high-efficiency hybrid units, electric models, tankless heaters, and solar-assisted systems. They are positioned to meet every regulatory and consumer preference.
And for the commercial sector, where the heating demands are exponentially larger and more complex.
For commercial uses, the product line is robust. They manufacture heavy-duty oil-fired gas and electric water heaters, large condensing boilers, thanks to Lochinvar,
Right.
specialized storage tanks, and these large-scale modular heating solutions known as skid systems. These are crucial because they offer pre-assembled, integrated heating solutions for massive facilities.
And the strategic emphasis on water treatment and purification continues to grow.
It does, particularly for the Asian consumer market, where they are betting big on future revenue.
The average consumer often doesn't recognize the name A.O. Smith, but they definitely recognize the stable of brands that fall under their ownership. It's a comprehensive multi-brand strategy.
That multi-brand strategy is essential for market penetration and managing different distribution channels, like plumbing wholesalers versus retail home improvement stores.
So who do they own?
The stable includes major names like State Water Heaters, Lochinvar, Takagi, Giant Factories, GSW, John Wood, American Water Heaters, and Reliance Water Heaters. When you factor in brands like Aquasana and Purate for purification, A.O. Smith just dominates a vast spectrum of water-related home and industrial necessity.
Finally, their commitment to the communities that built them has been a consistent feature for almost 70 years.
The A.O. Smith Foundation, a private nonprofit, was established in 1955. It's an example of enduring corporate commitment. The foundation has contributed nearly $50 million to charitable, educational, scientific, literary, and civic organizations, focusing primarily on the communities where A.O. Smith has facilities.
It demonstrates a reciprocal relationship with the industrial bases that sustained them through those incredible periods of war production and industrial transformation.
To bring this narrative full circle, we've tracked a truly remarkable history. The complexity of A.O. Smith's journey reveals a fascinating pattern.
Which is?
The industrial mastery required to build the world's first automated car frame factory and to handle the extreme technical demands of chemical weapon casings proved to be the exact prerequisite for mastering the mass production of the reliable, glass-lined water heater.
So their mastery of steel.
Their initial mastery of steel and that breakthrough in fusing glass to that steel allowed them to shed low-margin, high-capital businesses like auto frames and motors and ultimately pivot to the global, highly defensible market of water stewardship.
So what does this deep dive mean for you, the listener? This history demonstrates a profound industrial lesson. That fundamental materials science and manufacturing prowess, the ability to achieve that perfect, corrosion-resistant fusion of glass and steel, is incredibly portable and resilient. That core expertise was successfully applied across wildly different, high-value and essential industries. From high-tech defense and precision engineering for cars, to agriculture with the harvest-store silos.
And now, providing reliable home comfort and clean drinking water across the globe.
Right.
If we look forward, A.O. Smith's major strategic shift into water purification, highlighted by the acquisitions of Aquasana and Purate and their massive investments in Asian purification plants, shows where they believe the future growth lies.
It's a clear signal.
It is. So the question for you to consider is this. Is the next 150 years of this corporation defined less by heating water and more by the rapidly escalating global demand for cleaning it? What critical commodity facing scarcity or quality issues will drive the next great industrial pivot for the largest manufacturers of our time?